Good morning. So, I'm going to show you how I make my iced coffee every morning. Well, every other morning, because I make enough for 2 days. Um, usually, usually I will end up with about this much. That is about 20 ounces. I'll usually end up with about 32 ounces of coffee every morning. And then I'll split it. I'll have roughly 2 pints a day. Probably a little much in in the in the realm of caffeine, but it's alright. I'm not worried about it. So I've got my coffee beans, which you can see are um, ground up finely. I've got my carafe, and I put some ice in the bottom. Usually, I'll just kind of go roughly about half, a little less than halfway with ice. I've got my filter. I'm just waiting on my water to boil. So I got my filter in there. Got the coffee beans going. As you can see, you can't smell. It smells great. These are beans from Milo Coffee here in Little Rock. It's just a local um, coffee cafe, roaster, bakery, whatnot. Um, so, like I said, I'm just waiting for my water to boil. Should be a couple seconds. Um, the first thing I do with my freshly boiled water is I pour just a little bit on the top and let the coffee bloom. Um, I learned this from actually got a when I moved to Little Rock, I got a part-time job selling coffee beans at the farmers market with a local roaster um, for $10 an hour until he realized that he wasn't making any money. Now, he probably should have run the numbers before he said he hired me, but once he realized he wasn't making money, I stopped working for him. Incidentally, now has opened a coffee shop in North Little Rock called Darkside Coffee, and I don't really talk to him anymore because he's one of those people. I say those very conservative, anyway, and misogynistic. So yeah, don't associate. So, like I said, well, just pour a little water to bloom. Not enough to get the drip started. As you can see, there's not a whole lot going on in terms of here yet. But this is what it looks like up top. And sometimes you can tell when the beans are really fresh. They will they'll bloom. They'll grow. They'll get bigger. Um, but if your beans are a little older, then they won't. There's really it's really not a big deal. So usually when I make this, I'll fill it up to about here, um, and then the ice will melt as you go along, and that's okay. You don't want too much ice or you'll dilute the coffee, um, and it works really well. I don't know if you've ever brewed hot coffee and then tried to add ice. It just doesn't work as well. Um, so I'll usually go up to near the top of the filter every time I pour water in, and it's just kind of like a nice meditative experience. Like you don't, it takes longer than a drip coffee maker, that's for sure. But I prefer it this way. So once you get done, you'll have I've got my preferred coffee is ice. I made this morning. Got some coffee in there and a little bit of 2% milk. Now you can dress it however you want. You can add sugar. You can just drink it black. That's totally fine. But iced coffee, and there's really no like acidity, like astringent tastes, which I really like. Good luck.